All right, take two. I am committed to fulfilling my promise to read some of the preface. And as I did learn, it is recording, so that's great. Um, and yeah, yeah, it's kind of a funny process to be figuring out how to do this because the only way to figure out how to do it is to actually do it, which means that it's like, just there's like a lot of like blooper material that's just naturally embedded in what I'm doing here. So thank you, if you are watching this, and thank you for your patience and even your interest. So yeah, so for this this live stream, I mean, once like I said kind of in the last little snippet, it's my aspiration that I realized that I want to do this year is I want to record the entire book. I want to read the entire book through. And I guess the thing is, like, we'll see how far I can get. I think I can do the whole thing. I actually read the book aloud before I passed it over to design, and then it went to proofreading. But I actually read it aloud because that helped me hear it and correct for some of the like syntaxy awkward stuff. But as if you have seen the book, you realize it's kind of an undertaking. It's a big book, so to read it out loud, yeah, it takes a little while. So yeah, so maybe you'll join me on some of this journey as we go on this together. I feel like live stream would be a good format for this, especially since it is being recorded. So yeah, so how about just for this afternoon, I'm going to start out by reading the preface in the beginning of the book. So just quickly here, just like looking at the cover, open the cover. Sheila Parr did such an amazing job with the design and the look and the feel of the book. Absolutely extraordinary. The Parinama Method, Transform Everything, a practical and philosophical guide. And once I get more of a, like an interactive component to these, like similar to the one-on-one conversations that I'm having with people, or even some of the small workshops I've been doing, I get a lot of questions. And I guess one of the things that has surprised me is how much interest there is in me. But I guess I understand, as far as like if you're reading the book, like the interest in like who is the person who is like saying this, understandably, and also like who I am, and like what informed me to write this book, the process of writing it, and even my background as it influenced the process and kind of the inputs that went into this book. So I think that will probably be something that makes more sense to be a bit interactive, because it's like I'm always interested in like specifically what somebody wants to know, instead of kind of like guessing. Yeah, so I try to be an open book. So please, even if you have anything, if you want to add it in the comments, I'm always really happy to really like be as like open and transparent as I can be. Um so back to the promise of reading a little bit of the book. The opening quote, and actually, also, this might be like a little bit of like the director's commentary, because as I'm reading it, I may like have thoughts. So this won't be like a true audiobook where it's read cover to cover, like directly true to the text. So yeah, so fair warning on that. So the opening quote in the book comes from Hubert Selby Jr. And for those of you who are familiar with him, recognize him as the um, really compelling author of a lot of, like Last Exit to Brooklyn, Requiem for a Dream, not exactly light content that is really about an exploration of some of the depths of like honestly like the exploration of like the human experience. And so the opening quote here is something that had been with me for a really long time, um, and it kind of landed here. And like a lot of things, the stuff that's at the front of the book, it was some of the last. content to be created. So it really came through the filter of the entire content being reflected on what showed up in the front. But the quote here is, sometimes we have the absolute certainty that there is something inside us that is so hideous and monstrous that if we ever search it out, we won't be able to stand looking at it. But it's when we're willing to come face to face with that demon that we face the angel. And next comes the table of contents. As I've mentioned in a previous video, but I will assume you have not watched it for, for reasons pretty obvious, is that the table of contents is a really good orienting place for when you get the book. This isn't a great cover to cover book because it is so thick and there's a lot to it. And also that there are parts that can become kind of like confronting and or even just places where it's like, yeah, you're not really feeling like you really want to go there. So I really encourage moving around in the book in a way that like feels a bit more intuitive. And if there is a place where you hit a block, to move to other places, like the techniques and exercises at the end of each of the chapters in part 2, or even moving to the end of the book. But can talk more about that in like in another forum. So the preface I wrote, and just a little bit about the experience of writing the preface, was that I actually thought I'd never written a book. Like, I really hadn't probably ever written a short story, to be honest. Um, and so I actually thought that you wrote a book from kind of start to finish. And so I started by writing the preface. And before I'd ever written the book, and I was trying to explain the process of writing the book, where all I could actually talk about or speak to was what had led me right up to the moment of when I was going to like really dive into this process, which took about 4 years of completely undivided attention. So I was at a place when I first tried to write the preface. I was in a place where I was trying to make sense of this like very deep sense of calling to explore what I was doing. And also I was really wrestling with a like, who am I to be someone to take this on, and to like, and like what I sensed I was about to be doing. And so yeah, it was like, why me? And so a lot of the early prefaces were really trying to like build a case of why I'm somebody I thought people should take seriously or listen, or that I was in the position, so I'd talk about the trainings I did, and, and all sorts of stuff in terms of my professional background, and even things about my personal background. And ultimately, those sort of fell away, and there's probably about 4 different versions of them, and I really struggled with them because, quite frankly, I didn't know what a preface was. And many thanks to my editor, Allison, who wound up being like a Sherpa throughout this process, who guided me and showed me how to write a book. And this preface here turned out to be the last thing ever written in the book. So it's dated April 2022, and it was actually written the day that the file got sent over to the designer, to Sheila. And so by day, I mean like it was finalized. I think we worked on it for like 48 hours, like right leading up to sending the book over. And it was really appropriate to do then, because at that point, I really had an understanding of like what this was, that I honestly just like every day I come to a better understanding. So the later that I wrote the preface in the process of writing the book, like the better suited it is for like providing some insight. So I'm going to go ahead and read it. So here we go. So the preface. So it's hard to pin down exactly when it all started, because in a sense, I've been developing the Parinama Method, Transform Everything, a practical and philosophical guide, for most of my life. I can say that it began with my knowing there is a question I had to answer. I just didn't know what the question was. I'd been straddling the business world and an ongoing quest to understand myself through all manner of esoteric practices. And I knew I needed something to help me form this inquiry. Thankfully, I found Anodea Judas' Eastern Body, Western Mind, Psychology of the Chakra System as a path to the self, and it fit the bill in several ways. The Parinama Method's framework is in the main due to Judith's impressive work, but what I needed was a book that was more applicable to my life, one grounded in the practicalities that I face daily as a business leader and a city dweller. I came to realize that Toni Morrison was, of course, right. If there's a book you want to read, but it hasn't been written yet, then you must write it. The problem was I didn't know how to write a book. And then I did. It took over 3 years. So, among myriad other considerations, the process involved many hundreds of hours of research and interviews with over 100 people, in addition to the thousands from throughout my career who also inspired insights and inspiration. I also spoke with numerous professionals in the field of psychology and development, ran both in-person and virtual Parinama practice groups, and used the method as a consultant with professional teams and technical companies to great result. The Parinama Method begins with the notion that whatever calls to you is very real, and that what holds you back from it is both the practicality of physical survival and the falsehoods you've been told about who and what you are, passed down by people who are also lied to. Your extraordinary existence is a miracle, just as it is for everyone else you know. And the trick is to come to understand this so you can simultaneously hold compassion, boundary, hope, ambition, conviction, and a radical level of acceptance as you bravely proceed forward. In these pages, you'll find a step-by-step, level-by-level, practical process for how to access and activate everything that's already within you. You'll understand how to excavate the unexplored, unknown, yet significant depths of your constitution. With curiosity, wonder, and awe, you'll be able to observe the marvel of you as the intrepid explorer who dares to touch the depths of the ocean, travel into subterranean earth and the periphery of the known cosmos, and revel in the lushest and wildest wildernesses. This is it, and it's where you'll go with the Parinama Method. You grow and develop in a synchronized chronology, and there's a sequence of biological, neurological, and psychological development that progress in concert. We're raised within environmental conditions and circumstances that shape us when we're most malleable. It's through conscious reclamation that we can both see and travel within ourselves to play an active role in shaping how we experience our life by reconciling layer after layer of reflexes passed down unknowingly from one generation to the next. Each stage of our development has a corresponding physicality, and by turning to your subconscious and speaking the language of the body mind, which is sensation and movement, you extend a hand back to yourself and become either the hero you've been waiting for or the ideal family member and mentor through profound acts of presence, receiving, and generosity for yourself. We can't talk to the earliest layers within us because they're pre-verbal. They didn't learn through words, but through feeling. However, we can understand these layers and facets by using our mature, advanced cognitive functions that are capable of translating what we learn and know into the language of the body. You will communicate with the deepest, sweetest layers of who and what you are, both divine and mundane, practical and philosophical, the evolution of life itself, consciousness trying to know itself through an embodied experience. This consciousness is hard work because it pushes us on the outer limits of our nervous system's capability. The efficiency of reflexes dominates our lives, but consciousness is the leading edge of our biological technology. To be here right now is a chance to sign up for the work of advancing the evolution of humanity that's happening within our acts of awareness. The Parinama Method illuminates the repeating patterns and blind spots that keep affecting our lives. It was my work with people from different backgrounds, cultures, and experiences all around the world that revealed these similar patterns to me, all working within the same very human themes. The method also incorporates decades of working with and seeing the same struggles I was facing reflected in the experiences of so many others. I didn't know where the repeating patterns came from, yet they kept showing up for me no matter how many superficial changes I made in my life. So I started a process of going deep into my inner recesses to explore these subterranean aspects of myself that sometimes led to some perplexing behavior. The bottom line is that we all survive, and depending on the conditions of our circumstances, we can do things that are against what we know is at the core of our integrity. I certainly did. There are few there are a few things I now know, and one of them is that although our reflexes and repetitive thoughts will have us believe otherwise, there's something much grander and marvelous going on, and that your life is a part of it. There's nothing wrong with you, and you don't need fixing. You may just need some focused consciousness and somatic practices to get under the surface. While I was writing this, I imagined you reading it and was lifted and encouraged by the thought. And although it was only in my imagination, it's this moment I'm so grateful for that you're here now, hearing these words. It's my hope that you'll feel the love and care that's here for you in the Parinama Method. Katie Bickford, April 2022. So, yeah, that really takes me back to a particular moment in time. And, with that being said, that is my intention with this book is that, through my own work in this process, that it really enlivened my sense of absolute purpose that has like really existed for, like most of my professional life, which is to support other people, um, and to learn about myself in the process because it seems to me that's how it goes. I mean, this old kind of model that there's somebody that knows more about us than we know about ourselves, it's really I fully come into question, or I question that, which is that this is a process that we undergo together, and and that all the learning that's in here came, from my own interfacing with other people's knowledge and experience. So that is my hope that we do this together. And yeah, I mean, I think that it actually was pretty heavy to read that out loud just now. So I'm having a lot of like feelings arising from that. So a little bit to process there. But yeah, I mean, it's my hope that, if you're still watching this, that you'll share with me, just share with me your own experience with what you want to share with me. I want to have my door be wide open for anyone that wants to be having conversations with me about the how the method is impacting them, even what's arising, having conversations about that. That's been really meaningful for me. So yeah, so certainly, if you have any like anything that you want to say, like please like add that into the comments. I love hearing like thoughts and even just like any kind of like notions of like encouragement or even like constructive direction. I'm clearly not like a novice as far as like filming and doing video, and so this is going to be a process in figuring out how to be better at this. But like just like writing a book, in order to become like actually do something like relatively well, you have to be pretty bad at it for a significant amount of time. So, so with that said, I thank you for joining me, and I thank you for your patience. And I look forward to working on this together. So here we go. Bye.